Hi everyone. Shavua Tov. I'm happy you selected my class to join. Thank you. Okay, so our topic for tonight is Shalom Bayis with a twist. What's the twist? That's what we all want to know. Shalom Bayis, that we know, right? We have it, we don't have it, we know what it is. Okay? Let's see what our topic is tonight. Hi, welcome, come on in. Yeah, Shalom Bayis with a twist.
I'm sorry, forgive me.
That's okay. You already have Shalom Bayis. I know. You teach the class. All right. First of all, what are my qualifications for standing up here in front of you and teaching you about Shalom Bayis? Well, I'm happily married. He's not, but I am. I'll tell you what our trick is. I'll tell you. We do marriage workshops. He works, I shop. It's a great system. So I'm going to share a little bit about that with you. Because here's the thing. There is a certain quality in our marriages that we all need for the marriage to work. Now this is good for people to hear who are not yet married, people who are married, people who want to stay married, okay? There is one particular ingredient, and if I ask you, by the way, I love that I want to make this class interactive, so please don't be shy if I ask you a question, to just feel free to answer, okay? If I were to ask you what is the main ingredient that a marriage needs for its success, what would you tell me? Honesty, what else? Communication. Respect, giving, what else?
Commitment.
These are all great. Hey, you know the answer. That's my mother, by the way. Okay? Being mevater, that is a great one. And by the way, all of these, 100% true. So write them down. Okay? They're all true. But the most important, that comes before any of those ingredients, any of those values, there's one thing, and that is commitment. Commitment. Yes, you were right. What do I mean by commitment? And why is that the most important one? I'll tell you why. Commitment is a binding. It is a decision to be bound to this relationship. And that means when there is commitment in a relationship, no matter what happens, and I'm going to make a disclaimer when I say no matter what happens, and anything that I talk about in that regard, I am not referring to anything that is detrimental, anything that is any kind of abuse, any sort of undiagnosed or unmedicated mental illness or addiction or anything like that, okay? I'm referring to in normal, relatively healthy relationships, okay? I just need to make that disclaimer, because if it is something more severe like abuse or addiction or anything like that, then what we're discussing here, of course, is helpful to everyone, but that needs help beyond the scope of this class, okay? Anyway, so when there is no commitment in a marriage, then you will always be looking for a reason to leave. When there is commitment in a marriage, you will always be looking for a reason to stay. And I know people, many people, who tell me either that they are in a very, very difficult marriage, but they love each other. But it's a very, very difficult marriage. The relationship is very strained. Or I know people who ended up divorced, but they say, but we still love each other. We just couldn't live together. We're divorced, but we love each other. How do situations like this happen? How could it be that there are people who are divorced but still love each other, or who are in very strained, difficult marriages but they love each other? Why does this happen? And I'll tell you why. Because it is not enough to be in love with a person. We also have to be in love with marriage. We also have to understand the significance of marriage and why we need to be committed to this relationship. You know, there are two different modes in which most of us live our lives. There is decision mode and there is commitment mode. Now this goes for any area of life. Let's talk a little bit about what is decision mode and what is commitment mode. Now, decision mode. Decision, let's talk about the shoresh of the word decision, and that is decide. Decide is a word that has an IDE at the end of it. When we talk about words with an IDE, let's talk about a word that the whole world learned this year, but they don't know the definition of. genocide, okay? So genocide is what? The elimination of a group of people. Homicide, the elimination of a person, right? Suicide, I'm sorry, this got very dark. The elimination of self, right? Pesticide, the elimination of your pests, your children, whatever. So what does IDE mean? It means the elimination of. What does it mean to decide? To decide means the elimination of all other options, and I am choosing this one thing. I'm deciding, right? I saw all the options, and I'm choosing this one. To make a decision means that I am choosing something based on a specific reason. All of those other things didn't work for me. I didn't want them. This is the one I want. It's based on reason, all right? That's decision mode. Commitment mode is not based on reason. Commitment mode is the ultimate decision. It is a decision to commit to this thing, and that's it. And what I want to help explain the difference between if I'm living in decision mode and if I'm living in commitment mode, which one is ideal and why should I be there? Okay? Most of us spend most of our lives living in decision mode, but the ideal place to live really is commitment mode, and let's understand why. All right. Anyone here know anything about the laws of economics? Any economics majors here? No, of course they're not. They're working. Why are they going to be here? Okay, so I am not an expert in economics. I am an expert in spending money, if that counts, all right? But in the laws of economics, we never exchange a greater good for a lesser good. Does that make sense? We have something that is worth a high value. We will never exchange it for something for a lower value. That's not logical. Let me give you an example. How many people here get themselves a Starbucks at least once a week? Okay, don't be shy, don't be shy. It's okay, you can get a Starbucks. Okay, now how much is a Starbucks where you live? $6. Around $6, right? $7, $8, depending on where you live, okay? So let's say $7, okay? $7 on a cup of coffee. You decided that even though that's crazy expensive for a cup of coffee, it's something that's worth it for you, right? The pleasure of the coffee that you get from Starbucks is worth more than your $7. And we do that all the time with anything that we buy. Anything that we buy, we're making a decision that that item, that object, that thing is worth more than the money that I'm spending on it, right? That's decision mode. Right now, every single person in this room, and you walked in just on time, every single person in this room, you made a decision to be sitting in this class right now because you decided that this class was worth more to you than all the other classes. Right? But now, let's say you are sitting in this class and you get a message, a notification on your phone that you don't have and that you're not looking at, okay? But you get a notification that says you just won the lottery and you have to leave right now. It's actually around the corner from here, the place where you have to go get to the bank. You have to run right now to the bank to go get it. And you have to be there within 10 minutes. What are you going to do? You're going to leave and you go get your money. You're going to get your money, right? So a few minutes ago, you decided that the best usage of your time was to be in this class. But now, something different came up, something of greater value to you, so you're going to go get your money. Okay, do we understand decision mode? Decision mode means I made a decision. I chose something that there was a reason why I'm selecting this. I eliminated all the other options. This was my best option. Wait, but now something better just came up, so forget about that. I'm going to go to the better option. That's decision mode, okay? Commitment mode means, we said it's the ultimate decision. It means I am choosing this and I am committed to this even if something better comes up or what seemingly better comes up, because commitment mode is no longer based on reason. It is based on the ultimate decision. Now, of course, there could be exceptions to commitment. There can be, but we don't judge things by the exceptions. We judge them by the rule. So we're talking about the rule, okay? So when you live life in decision mode, that means everything in life is a little wishy-washy, right? Everything is a little like, yeah, I chose this, okay, but now I'm here, now I'm there. There's no stability when you live life in decision mode. If we want stability in life, and if we want certainty in life, we have to switch over from decision mode to commitment mode. Now here's the thing. There is a very famous words that I know you heard these words. Kol haschalos kashos, right? You heard these words, which means all beginnings are hard. I don't know if you know that these are actually Rashi's words. Okay, Rashi's the one who teaches us this concept. Kol haschalos kashos, all beginnings are hard. Wonderful, we all know that. But you know what part of that we don't know? We always forget about the beginning of that Rashi. Right before those words, Rashi says, at the end, it's going to be sweet. But all beginnings are hard. We don't talk about the sweetness that's going to be at the end. But that's what Rashi says. The beginnings are hard, but at the end, it's going to be sweet. Now, how come so many of the things that we start doing in life, new lifestyles that we choose, new habits, healthier habits, all the things, right, that we want to bring in, for ourselves to change something in our lives to make it better, how long do they usually last? Right? We usually give up in the beginning, the first 2 days. How many Mondays did we start a new diet? Okay? How many times? Right? We try. And, the beginning, we want to do this, we want to do that, and we usually give up within a few days. For sure we give up when we're halfway through. Very often we don't make it till the end. Why is that? Why does that happen? And we get frustrated with ourselves. Why can't I just change this habit? Why can't I just change this lifestyle, this piece, this thing in my relationship? Why can't I change it? It's so hard. You know why it's so hard? Because when we are not committed to the lifestyle change, when we're not committed to the thing, we're constantly wishy-washy. It's like if you start a healthy eating lifestyle, but you say, okay, I'm going to eat really healthy because it's better for me, but not on Shabbos, or not when I go to a wedding, not when I'm on a Shabbaton, not when then you know what happens? We never get past the beginning stage. We're always at kol haschalos kashos. We never get to the sweet part at the end, right? Because we're constantly starting again. We never get there when we're wishy-washy. When we live in decision mode, it's really difficult to experience pleasures. It's difficult to experience the greatness and the goodness that's going to come out of the thing we're trying to do, or the thing we're trying to get. And not only that, we don't actually have siyata d'shmaya, which is divine assistance and inspiration, when we are living in decision mode, because it's almost like Hashem's like, I want to help you, but I can't find you. Like, you're not here, you're not there. You told me you're going to go there, but really you're there. Like, what's happening? When we shift from decision mode into commitment mode, that's when things get so much better. We get away from the beginning stages, and we're finally able to get over that threshold and into the sweetness. And that's when we get siyata d'shmaya. That's when Hashem says, oh, I see you're really committed to this. I'm going to help you now. Now you became a solid and a stable vessel to be able to hold the bracha and the shefa that I am about to give you. So this is in life in general. Just this concept of decision mode and commitment mode. Now, how do we understand this in a relationship? Hi, welcome, come in. How do we understand this in a relationship? So many times we live our lives in our marriages in decision mode. Decision mode means that we're constantly questioning and doubting ourselves, our spouses. Everything that happens has to turn into an argument, a conflict. There's those conflicts that just come up again and again and again, the same fights, the same misunderstandings, the same pain, the same hurt, the same taking things personally and getting offended, and over again. That's decision mode. That's because I don't trust that my spouse actually loves me and cares about me and prioritizes me. I'm still questioning it, so I'm still getting hurt and offended by it. If I could flip into commitment mode and say, okay, maybe he didn't deliver that in the best way that he can, but it wasn't personal. I know he loves me, right? So let me talk to him about it. Let's make a joke about it, right? Let me talk to him about it and express to him how that made me feel. Either, whatever the reaction is. But when you're in commitment mode, it doesn't turn into a conflict. It doesn't turn into a fight. Because we're not questioning the love and we are not questioning the trust. Commitment mode means I trust. I am here. I trust. And this is why when a couple gets married, what is the bracha that we give to the couple? That they should be zocheh, livnos, bayis ne'eman b'Yisrael. Right? You should be zocheh to build a bayis ne'eman b'Yisrael. What's up with the word ne'eman? Why can't you just say build a bayis b'Yisrael? Ne'eman? What does the word ne'eman mean? Trusting, faithful. You should be zocheh to build a trusting home in the Jewish nation, a home where there is commitment, a home where there is unwavering trust with one another, where we're able to flip into commitment. And that's why the word emunah. Emunah is about our relationship with Hashem. We have to be in a committed relationship with Hashem also. Many people live in decision mode in their relationship with Hashem, constantly doubting and questioning and testing. Does Hashem love me? I don't feel like He loves me. I don't, right? And we go through all of these difficult moments in life where meaning they're difficult because we're creating this level of distrust. Right? Do I trust? Do I not trust? Emunah means I am coming into this relationship and I am flipping into commitment mode with Hashem. So that's decision and commitment mode. Now I want to move on a little bit to talk about the idea of love. Love, the beautiful word love. Everybody loves this word. We talk about it, we hear about it, we sing about it, we dance about it. Every Disney movie is about it. Every song, you go walk into the mall, every song you hear playing, love, love, love. You would think that that the world would know what love actually means. But we look around, and I don't think people actually know what love means. We don't seem to have a lot of strong, loving relationships. And in fact, if you pay attention to the words of those songs that we hear, the love that we're being taught about is a very toxic love. It's a codependency, and it's all these unhealthy relationships and pursuing these unhealthy people. But these are the messages that we're getting from the world. And any Disney movie, everything, all these messages of love, 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 that aren't actually love at all. But these are the messages that we're getting. So we're confused. What is love? If this is what I'm being taught, but doesn't feel very good because I don't feel like this is real love. Maybe I'm still feeling that shakiness. I'm still feeling that wishy-washiness. What is love? So I'm going to talk about two different definitions of love right now. Okay? The first one is, if it's important, this is the definition, all right? If it's important to you, it's important to me. You see, here's the thing. Very often, I hear people talking about when they're dating, I hear people saying, I need to find someone who is, I need to find my soulmate. We all know the word bashert, right? Soulmate, these are words that we throw around a lot, right? I need to find someone who has shared interests with me. We have to like the same things. And if we think about the classic, falling in love scenario where we have the guy and the girl on two opposite ends of the room and their eyes meet across the room in a crowded room, right, full of people, and the music is playing, and you could just picture the scene, and their eyes meet, and they realize that they need to be together. They feel like they're soulmates, and they start walking towards each other, right? It's a real Gamba Shaot moment. You could play that music in the background. They're walking towards each other, right? And they sit down together. And now it's time to talk. They buy each other a drink, and they discuss, and guess what? They both love the same food. They both love Indian food. Oh my goodness, right? He's my soulmate. Oh, what else? You also love country music? Oh my goodness, my soulmate. What? Oh, you also love going to Italy? Oh my gosh, right? And these people fall in love because they have all these shared interests, okay? Now, when you have all these shared interests, does that mean you're going to have the most amazing relationship now? No fights, no conflict, love, love, love from beginning to end? Of course not. People can have all the shared interests in the world, and they can still have a terrible relationship. Because it's not about having shared interests. You don't have to have any of these things in common with your husband. None of them. It's not about having shared interest. It's about showing interest in the things that are important to them. Love means if it's important to you, it's important to me. I may not care about that at all. I have no interest in that, whatever it is you're talking about, but I do care about it because it's important to you, right? There is an island in the northwestern region of Oceania that is called Papua New Guinea. Have you heard of Papua New Guinea? You've heard of it, right? Have you? No, what's Papua New Guinea? Well, there's a very fun fact about Papua New Guinea, that there is a region there called Bougainville that is about to become autonomous. How cool is that? Not cool at all, right? You're staring at me like, why is that interesting? It's not interesting, but you know why I know that? Fun fact, random piece of information, I'll tell you why. Because my 12-year-old son, Shlomo, is fascinated with geography. Fascinated. He's obsessed. He loves geography. So I have to learn all these cool, fun facts about weird, random countries so that I get to discuss them with him. And he feels great, and he loves it, and we could sit and talk for hours about things that I really couldn't care less about. But I love him, so I have to show interest in things that are important to him. You know how many times I get phone calls from parents who tell me, Yafa, I don't know what to do. I can't connect with my teenager. My teenage child, we have nothing in common. I don't know what to talk to them about because we have nothing in common. And I tell them, you don't have to have anything in common with them. You have to figure out what's important to them and talk to them about what's important to them. Do research on it and sit and ask them questions and tell them comments. Tell them fun facts. That's all. If it's important to you, it's important to me. That's what love is. And that's how we show people love. And as a bonus to that, right, you never know, you might actually find some of those things fascinating. You never thought about discovering them before, learning anything about them. But wow, they might be fascinating. So I would suggest, all right, in your relationships with people that you want to love, let's flip one word and replace it with another word, okay? Instead of the word how, which we tend to do when our spouses or children or anyone are expressing something to us that we think is ridiculous, okay? Instead of saying how, like, how are you going to do that? How does that make sense? Come on. How is that realistic? Right? A lot of hows. We flip the how to a wow. Wow, that's fascinating. Tell me more about it. Wow, what made you decide to be interested in that? Tell me more about it. We flip the how to a wow so that we can really connect with the person and with things that are. How does somebody feel? How would somebody feel if you go express to them something that's really important to you and they sit there and they care and they're interested because it's important to you? Don't you feel loved? That's what love is. So that is our very first definition of love. Okay? If it's important to you, it's important to me. Now, I am being very conscientious of time, and I want to make sure that we cover all the things that I want to cover. So we're going to just skip to the second definition, even though there were a couple things I wanted to say in between. Let's go to the second definition of love, okay? Second definition. Find, focus on, and define. We got 3 F's over there, okay? Find, focus on, and define the person by their strengths and not by their weaknesses. Sounds nice. Sounds simple, right? Okay, cool. But you know what? It's not so simple because we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses, every single one of us. We're multidimensional. And if I would look around the room right now, I don't even know most of you, and I can probably list off a couple of positive things about you just by looking at you, just by talking to you a little bit over Shabbos. You find a lot of nice things about you. But it's one thing to find. Find is the easiest if you make that effort, right? But then I have to focus on it. Now I already have to start looking at you as those positive things and disregard some of the negative things that I might have noticed also, because we all have both. So we find it, then we have to focus on it, and then we define the person by those positive things, right? That's where the real work is. By saying, this is who you are. This is the definition of you. The goodness that I see in you. Because so often we focus on the negative and the people that we're closest with, because the people they live with us, they're in our home. Those are the things we see. Those are the things that affect us. And we focus so much on the negative, and then we start trying to demand that the person changes, whether it's our spouse, whether it's our children. We demand changes, or we make certain demands of them, have certain expectations of them that are really not aligned with their strengths and not aligned with who they are and what their capabilities are. And that leads to disappointment, that leads to a lack of respect, that leads to all these negative things. So what happens is, if we, I get, this is a phone call that I get often from young women or women married anywhere up to 7 years usually. I get a phone call from them. Sometimes it's right in the beginning of their marriages and then they're like panicked, and sometimes it's a few years in and then they're very embarrassed. Okay, but I get these phone calls where, hi, welcome, come on in. I get these phone calls where they say, Yafa, I don't know what to do. My husband is not who I thought he was. He's not who I thought he was. I don't know, when we were dating, he had this connection with Hashem, and he was this big Talmid Chacham, and he was, everything, his mitzvos were so serious, and now he doesn't even get up for Shachris, right? Or they say things like, I thought he was going to be he promised me he was going to be a hands-on father, but I give him the baby to bathe the baby slips right through his hands, he doesn't sit down, doesn't play with the kids, but he said he was going to be a hands-on father. He's not the man I thought he was going to be. Right? And of course, after talking to them, we get into a whole conversation about expectations and how expectations have to be realistic. And, we talk a lot about that. But my main point over here is when I ask these women, so how do you react to that? How do you respond to these disappointments? How do you respond to the things that your husband isn't doing that you thought he would be doing or should be doing? And 9 out of 10 times, they're like, well, I nag him to do it. I keep telling him that he's wrong. Keep telling him that he promised me things would be different. That's our natural response. That's our natural response to it. But let's understand something now. And let's go to the example where the husband doesn't get up and go to shul, because I have found this to be very, very common. Okay? Do you think your husband is proud of himself for not getting up and going to Shachris? Of course he's not. Do you think he knows he should be doing it? Yes. Do you think he really wants to do it? Of course he does. There's a reason he's not doing it, okay? But you're telling him how bad he is for not doing it, right? How, all the things that are negative about him not doing it, and you nagging him to do it. Is that helping him do it more, or is that making it even harder for him to do it? Right? And that's the thing that we need to understand. By you focusing so much on that one area, do you know what a downward cycle it is in your marriage? Right? And also, this is something that I ask these women when they tell me about this. I say, I have one question for you. Are you a morning person or a night person? These wives. Most of the time they tell me that they're a morning person. And I say, well, your husband is probably a night person. Does he stay up later at night? Like, does he have more energy at night than the day? And they say, yeah. A person who is a morning person has a really hard time understanding people who are not morning people. The struggle that they have getting up in the morning. And I know this because I am a morning person. My husband is not. Now he is, because it's been an avoda for him that he worked on. He worked on those midos. But in the beginning of my marriage, it was very, very tough for him. Very, very tough for him to get up. And I couldn't understand it. I'm like, what do you mean? The sun is up, you just get up, right? You just wake up, it's the morning, I didn't understand it because I'm a morning person. I get my energy bright and early, right? When we first got married, I'd wake up, I'd be like, Mod'ani lefanecha, running to the bathroom, I'm happy, I'm in a good mood. And my husband would be brushing his teeth. And I was like newly married, and I'm like, is he okay? Is he upset at me? Did I do something wrong? And I'm like going through all the things in my mind, like, what did I say, what did I do? And I'm like, are you okay? And it took me a few years to realize his voice doesn't come out until like 10 a.m. Like, it just doesn't come out. He can't talk. He can't even smile. He just can't. It took me a while.
Change him?
What?
You change him?
Well, the question is, how did I change him? That's really the question. It's a good question. Okay? Did I change him? I didn't change him. Because again, when people call me with questions that start with, how do I get my husband to? And I stop them right there and I say, we don't get our husbands to do anything. It doesn't work that way. We don't start off sentences like that, right? How do we create the positive change that we want to see in our spouses, in our children, in our homes? How do we create those changes? We create them, first of all, by modeling the changes that we want to see. And second of all, by influencing the changes that we want to see, right? We influence, we encourage, we empower. We don't get people to do anything. And here's what I mean by that. If I would focus so much on the fact that my husband had a hard time getting up in the morning, or if anybody has, if that's your situation, we're just sticking with this example, okay? If I would focus so much on that, right, then I would define him by that negative trait. Yeah, but you never get up in the morning. Automatically, you lose respect for that person. You lose respect. What happens when your husband doesn't feel respected by his wife? Right? It's really, really hard for him to get into his masculine energy if his wife doesn't respect him. And it's really hard for him to reciprocate the love that his wife needs from him, because he's not feeling respected by her. And this doesn't necessarily happen on a conscious level. This all happens on a subconscious level. But when he's not feeling respected, he can't reciprocate with that love that his wife needs. And he doesn't get into his masculine energy, which is a bigger turn off to the wife. And then she respects him even less and even less. And then he can show love even less and even less. So we actually end up in a vicious cycle downward when we focus on the negative traits of our husbands. When we focus on the things that they're doing wrong, we end up in this virtuous cycle downward. But if we were to say, you know what, my husband doesn't get up in the morning, he's struggling with getting up in the morning, or he's struggling doing this thing, or he's struggling doing that thing, but look what an amazing person he is, the midos that he has, the way he is with other people, the way he speaks to me, the way he speaks to our children, what he does, the chesed that he does, whatever it is, whatever his strength, the reasons you married him in the first place, okay? He still has all those things. And if we would define him by those things, then we respect him so much for who he is. We show him that respect, and he feels so good about himself. It builds him up. And then he's able to respond with that love and respect towards us in return. And that cycle continues. And then we have a virtuous cycle upward of love, respect, because we are focusing on their qualities. We're focusing on their virtues. We're focusing on the things that they're doing right, on their qualities and on their strengths. Now this works with our children too. Right? I know this is about Shalom Bayis, but I can't go without saying it. This works out. Sometimes we are so hard on our children. Sometimes we're so demanding of them. Well, do this better. No, you didn't do this right. No, yep. Let's stop for a minute. Are we judging our children? Because I get those calls too, by the way. Yafa, what should I do? I feel like I don't love my child. It's a tough call when I get one like that. I don't love my child. Now here's the thing, okay? They do love their child. And I prove it to them. And then I rephrase it for them. And I say, no, of course you love your child. Maybe you don't like your child. That could be. Why not? You know what a child is? A child is an accident at birth. What do I mean by that? What I mean is you have no idea what you're giving birth to. You have no idea anything about that child. You don't know what they're going to look like. You don't know their personality, their height, their characteristics, their IQ level, their physical, their eye color. You don't know anything about them. Nothing. And yet, if you ask an expectant mom, you say, "Are you going to love your child after it's born?" What is she going to tell you? Of course. Are you crazy? I already love the child. And then you say to her, yeah, but what if your child turns out to be a brat like the neighbor's kid? Are you still going to love your child? Of course I'm still going to love my child. It's not even a question. And then the child is born, and the child has to be raised. And then suddenly the mother is like, because you know what? Many, many times we have what I like to call a trigger child. We have a trigger child. We have some children that just trigger us in a difficult way. Or we have multiple children who trigger us in certain areas, right? With certain things that they do. We have a trigger child. It's possible. Because you can have a child who is so similar to you that all the things you don't like about yourself, you don't like about the child. Or you could have a child that is so similar to your husband that all the things you don't like about him, you also don't like about the child. This could happen. Of course it does. So then we talk about how to like the child and how to feel that you love the child. And that is exactly the way we just said. Find, focus on, and define the child by their strengths, not by their weaknesses. Look for all the good, wonderful, amazing things in that child and build that child up. Build them up to be, empower them to be the best version of themselves they can be. You're going to start loving that child more than anyone. And this is with our spouses too. And by the way, repeat this to your spouse so he'll do it for you. Because this goes the opposite way, but I'm just talking to you, I'm not talking to him. Okay? But it's not like it's all on you. It's just you're the ones who are here wanting to learn. So that's why you're the ones receiving this. All right? So that's what's important for us to understand. Focus on, and define a person by their virtues, by their qualities, by their strengths, not by their weaknesses, not by their shortcomings, okay? And you'll see, bless you, you'll see how everything in your life, everything in your relationship will start shifting, will start changing, okay? Just by how you relate to your spouse. Now here's the thing. As I said before, we're all multidimensional, okay? No one's perfect. So what I'm telling you to do now is, it makes sense, of course. It's real. It changes things, it shifts things, but it doesn't mean it's easy. Because everybody has things that are hard for them. Everybody has what I like to call a dark side, all right? We all have a dark side. Anybody in this room have a dark side? Don't be shy. Not here. Nobody has a dark side. Nah, right? Nobody has a dark. Here, listen. All right. I'm going to share my dark side with you. What? That's when the dark side comes out. All right. I'm going to share my dark side with you. All right. You ready for this? I'm going to get very vulnerable with you right now. Here's my dark side. I am a convicted plant killer. I kill plants on a regular basis. There's nothing I can do. I've tried everything. And what's crazy is I have lots of guests in my home, lots of people coming to my home, and everybody decides to bring me a beautiful orchid. Everybody walks into the house carrying this orchid and this magnificent, I open the door and there they are, this bright, happy, cheerful, colorful orchid, full of life, full of enthusiasm, looking forward to a long, happy life with me. And I just look at that poor orchid and I say, that poor thing, it doesn't realize its
days are numbered.
I look at it, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't realize it's going into hospice. It has a month left to live, right? I name them as they come in. I'm like, Yiskadal, Yiskadash, like those are just their names, okay? And they come in and it's terrible. So one day, I heard about this experiment. It's an experiment that was done by IKEA, the furniture company. It was called Bully the Plant. Have you heard of it? It was an incredible, fascinating experiment. What did they do? They were trying to prove the power of our words. So they took two plants and they put them into separate rooms. The first plant, they would go in every single day and they would talk to the plant in very sweet, gentle, loving words. They would tell the plant how beautiful it is, how amazing it is, how talented it is, what it has to offer this world, how it is giving oxygen to the world. And they just told all these beautiful, amazing things to the plant. At the end of the experiment, the plant was thriving. It was happy. It was amazing. It was beautiful. They had a second plant in the other room. And every day they went into that plant and they spoke these horrible, harsh words to the plant, verbal abuse to that plant. They told the plant how awful it was, how unnecessary it was, how it has nothing to offer the world. And at the end of the experiment, that plant withered away and died. Isn't that crazy? So when I heard about this, I said, that's what my plants need. They need my love. They need me to talk to them. So I took all my orchids and I lined them up on the dining room table. And every day I went over to my orchids and I started talking to them. And I started stroking their petals. I told them how beautiful they were, how much I loved them, how much I needed them in my life, how much they offered the world. And every day I got closer and closer to my orchids. I developed this real bond with them, and I started sharing my struggles with them. I shared them with them, my struggles, my laundry struggles, my chocolate addiction, struggles with my teenagers. I told them everything. And one day I shared my deepest, darkest secrets with my orchids. And then I realized, now they know too much, now I have to kill them. And that was the end of my orchids. But I did start a support group for plant killers. If anybody here wants to join, it's called Plant Parenthood. So you're welcome to join. Okay. I know, I'm sorry, that was so bad. But my point is that we all have things that are difficult for us. We all have things that are dark. And when I say a dark side, I am not talking about something evil. Of course, as you said, we don't have a dark side. We're not evil people, right? Nothing sinister, nothing evil, nothing bad. What do I mean by a dark side? Let's talk about the moon for a second. When we look at the moon, what do we see? This bright, beautiful, either round or half-shaped or whatever time of month it is, this beautiful crescent, thing in the sky, it always looks the same. Even if the shape is different, we have this beautiful color that comes out of the moon every single night. It's the same thing. But has anyone here ever been to the other side of the moon? Didn't think so. Don't try it. Right? Don't go there. Why have you not been to the other side of the moon? Right? It hasn't been discovered yet. No one has been there yet. The other side of the moon is completely black. It's dark. There's nothing to see there. An undiscovered side. The dark side of the moon has been undiscovered. So when I say we all have a dark side, what I mean by that is we all have a side that has been undiscovered. Something about ourselves that we still don't know. Something about our spouses we still don't know. And you can think, oh, come on, I'm married 30 years. Of course I know him. Do you know that there is a couple who live near me who are in their 70s? And she just told me that over COVID, she learned so many things about her husband that she did not know. Okay? I said, but you guys are married 30 years, 40 years, however many years you married, 50 years. Sorry. Math is not my strength. I said, you guys are married 50 years. What do you mean you don't know? She's like, I learned these things about my husband that I didn't know. It's amazing. No matter how much we think we know them. Oh, it's my child. Of course I know my kid. No. 1 minute. There's an undiscovered side. So when our spouse, when our child, is having a tantrum, okay, your 2-year-old, your 14-year-old, whichever one, is having a tantrum, okay, instead of reacting to what they're doing, we have to react to the why they're doing it. There is always a why beneath the what. It's not what they're doing. It's the moment to stop and say, okay, they're having a tantrum. They're very upset about something. But why? What triggered them? What made them upset? Let me try to figure this out. Let me talk to them. Let me understand what's going on in their world so I can understand why this made them upset. The same thing with our husbands. When our husbands are having a tantrum, okay? Our husbands are upset, in a bad mood, whatever it is that's going on. Instead of becoming reactive to it, which is the most natural thing to do, to stop for a moment and say, okay, why is he in such a bad mood? What happened? Let me discover his inner world a little bit to figure out why he's responding this way. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what triggered him. An undiscovered side. And here's the thing. We have an undiscovered side about ourselves also. We think we know ourselves so well. How many of you take yourselves out for coffee just because? On a regular, right? Do you? Just let me catch up with myself a bit. Get to know myself a bit better. Most of us don't do that. We don't spend a lot of time getting to know ourselves. We don't. Why? We have all these distractions. What's the first thing you do when you get into the car? Anybody? First thing you do? Music. Turn on the music. Turn on a podcast. Anything but to have to sit with myself. What am I going to discover? I might discover something that I don't like. I might discover the dark side of me. I don't want to go there. I don't want to discover anything I don't like, right? We don't like to get to know ourselves. But here's the thing, and now we're getting to the part that's the twist. Okay, are we ready for this? When the Gemara teaches us about our zivug, the Gemara tells us, it brings down 3 statements. The middle one we're not talking about now because it's not relevant to our discussion. So we're going to talk about the first and the third. Okay? And the first statement that's brought down in the Gemara over there is that how do you find your zivug? How do you find your match, your partner, your bashert, whatever word you want to use, your soulmate, which, by the way, is a whole different conversation, but I don't really, Judaism, we really don't believe in soulmates. You don't marry your soulmate. You don't. I'm sorry. You're not going to marry your soulmate. I didn't marry my soulmate. You know what I did? I created my soulmate. That's what I did. Right? And that's what we do in Judaism. We create our soulmates. So that person that you end up under the chuppah with. So the first thing that the Gemara tells us is that it is based on merits. Whoever you are, the person that you have become, you will find a person who aligns with those characteristics, with the mitos that you have, with the person you have chosen to become. It's merit-based, the person that you find. But then we have the Gemara that comes in and says, wait, is that so? What do you mean? Because I thought that there's another Gemara that says, based on Rav, says that, 40 days before the embryo was formed, a heavenly voice calls out and proclaims who will marry who. And 40 days before the embryo is formed is conception. So at the moment of conception, the Gemara says, your partner is called out to be matched with you. But then the Gemara says that no, it's merit-based. It depends on who you have become. That's going to be your partner. So which one is it? Which one is it? There's a machlokas here. That's okay. The Gemara is not afraid of a machlokas. The Gemara comes back and says, okay, I hear you. I know, I get that it's a little confusing. So here's the thing. We're talking about two different zivugim. There's a zivug rishon and there's a zivug sheni. There's the primary, the first zivug, and then there is the second zivug. Okay? Very nice. You know how sometimes the answer is more confusing than the question? Like, okay, cool. So what does that mean? Everyone has a second zivug? Does that mean every single marriage has to have, chas v'shalom, a death, a divorce, or is this about polygamy? Like, what is the Torah teaching us here? Right? What does it mean that everyone has a zivug rishon and a zivug sheni? So here's an incredible concept that I want to share with you. It is not necessarily the zivug rishon, okay? The zivug rishon is that bas kol that comes out and says who you're going to marry. The zivug sheni is merit-based. That's what the Gemara says, okay? The zivug rishon has nothing to do with marriage. Your zivug rishon is at the moment of conception. The bas kol comes out, okay? Hashem speaks and he says, I am pairing up this body with this soul. And that is your zivug rishon. Your body and your soul are the first match that has been created. And you are born together as a body and soul. And your mission in this world is to create shalom bayis, primarily between your body and your soul. Is it? What?
I think it's Ben Tony or Bas.
Right. So that's a whole different conversation, because obviously there are different mefarshim that explain different. So that's what I was going to tell you. That's what I was going to say. So the way I understand it, 100%. The way I understand it is the neshama is the female, the guf is the male. So based on this understanding, that's what it would mean. Okay? So the bas ploni and ben ploni, the male and female. It is your guf and it is your neshama. Isn't that beautiful? Right? So, and this is what our mission is, to create shalom bayis between the body and soul, to understand the mission of the soul, to accept your body the way it is, right? To love your body, to understand that there's, to live in this world with meaning, to live in this world with purpose, to know what your strengths are, to know who you are and who you're supposed to be. That is the shalom bayis between the body and soul, to completely connect as one and a complete acceptance of who you are. And then the zivug sheni is your partner in life, is the person that you end up marrying. Now your zivug rishon has a direct impact on your zivug sheni. That means the amount of shalom bayis that you have with your zivug rishon is the shalom bayis you're going to have with your zivug sheni. Because there is one person you have to marry before you marry your husband. And you know who that is? Yourself. You have to first marry yourself. You have to first be at peace within yourself. Because how is somebody else supposed to love you if you don't love yourself? And how are you supposed to accept the love that your husband is showing you if you don't feel lovable? If I don't feel lovable and someone shows me love, then what happens is I don't believe that they love me because I'm not lovable. So I start thinking that they must have an ulterior motive. It's not me that they love. And then I end up sabotaging the relationship. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because no one can love me, right? So if I don't feel lovable and I don't love myself, there's no way I can accept love from another person. And if I don't learn how to be happy on my own, I could never accept happiness from another person, right? And what we need to understand is that it is not our husband's job, and it's not a wife's job either, to make their spouses happy or to make their spouses feel loved, because it's never going to work. Nobody can make you feel loved if you don't know how to feel love on your own. And I always tell this to, I say this in my Shalom Bayis course. I start off, the first thing I say in my Shalom Bayis course is, I say there is no such thing as a happy couple. And everyone's like, this is what I left my house for. I got a babysitter to hear this, right? I mean, there's no such thing as a happy couple. There isn't. You know what there is? There are two happy individuals who can then become a happy couple. You cannot, when people tell me that they're, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm lonely, and I'm single, and I really want to get married just so that I can be happy. I say to them, if you're sad, lonely, depressed, and single, marriage will change only one thing for you. You will be sad, lonely, depressed, and married. That's it. That's the only difference that you're going to have, right? Before we marry someone else, we have to marry ourselves. Now, this could happen even if you're already married. This can be a decision for you to make. You can flip, into this commitment mode. Commitment, not just to a person, commitment to the marriage, right? And you can say, I am committing first to marry myself. I have to love myself. I have to connect with myself. I have to accept. I have to have Shalom Bayis between my body and soul, complete peace inside of me, understanding who I am, understanding what I have to offer, living fully. Right? That's the Shalom Bayis. That's with me. And I think class is over. I think that's it. So that's it for now. Even though I had so much more that I want to say, but but that's what I wanted to share with you. And I thank you so much for being here with me tonight. Okay?
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Just a quick announcement.